Chapter 45. Who am I if I'm alone? How I wish he had a clone. A wonderful boyfriend just for me, so I could feel as lovable as she. Which carriage is it now? Agneta stood on tiptoe, trying to make out what she could see between the heads in front of her. It was so crowded, Kevan's leg and arm touched hers. She didn't mind. What she did mind was that she was also standing too close to people she didn't know who kept bumping into her. From her elevated seat on Kevan's shoulders, Jenny answered, I don't know, it's hard to see. I think it says something about doping. Could it be carriage 22? Agneta riffled through the program from the Chalmers cortege to find wagon 22. When she found it in the program, she looked up to see it again, but it had already passed, as had the next one. The one coming up she could barely see either. As always, on Walpurgis night, it was crowded on the main avenue. Not that it mattered. What mattered was the atmosphere, the diversity of people going into the city to jostle and find the best possible place to watch the cortege from. Standing next to Kevan, Agneta smiled. Walpurgis night was great. When all of the cortege had passed, the crowd slowly dissolved and the three friends strolled towards Brunnsparken to buy kebabs at Kevan's favorite place. He and Jenny shared one, taking it in turns to take bites, garlic sauce dripping from their chins. After a while, the other members of the little band arrived. Agneta's eyes teared up when she drank some of the dark brown drink in a pet bottle pom-pom passed around. Kevan smiled and patted her shoulder. She smiled back and wondered for the 100th time if he had figured out she was in love with him. She knew Jenny would never reveal her secret, but she felt as if she had I love Kevan written on her forehead. My best friend's boyfriend. So ridiculous. It was like in the television series Beverly Hills 90210, where Brenda and Kelly were both in love with Dylan. I have to get a boyfriend. Kevan will never stop loving Jenny. I just have to accept that. It's time to go, guys. Jenny threw the used napkins in a trash can. Come on. She put her arm around Kevan and walked toward the door. The rest of the band, which had started to get loud thanks to Pom-Pom's special drink, followed. Martin held the door open for Agneta and grinned goofily. Well, I'm not that desperate, she thought, and avoided the arm he tried to put around her by running to Jenny and Kevan. When they got to Drottningtorget, Jenny shouted that they had to hurry. The tram to Majorna was just about to leave. When she arrived, the others were far behind. They didn't even try to move faster. Come on now, guys! She stood in the door, preventing the tram from leaving. The tram driver was already annoyed by all the drunk youth he had in his tram, screaming and making a mess. He told Jenny to get off. When she didn't do what he asked, he got up to force her out. Then the others finally showed up, and when the driver saw the whole band with the muscular Pom-Pom in the lead, he sat down again. Pom-Pom began to sing songs and passed around the bottle in the tram. Agneta noticed that the mixture tasted better and better. She had ended up next to Martin after all. He put his arm around her shoulders and blared along when Pom-Pom got the people on the tram to sing along to a very known Swedish song, Teddybjörnen Fredriksson. When they arrived, Agneta somehow forgot the steps as she was getting off and fell forward. Kevan had to quickly turn around to catch her. Sorry. She felt clumsy and stupid. Jenny hadn't noticed a thing. She was already far ahead of everyone else. Why is she always in such a hurry? Agneta hurried her unsteady steps. Suddenly she felt a big need to pee. Big time. How far did they still have to go? She didn't know. She just knew she needed to pee. Now. Jenny! Jenny, far ahead, heard nothing. Kevan turned to Agneta and asked what she wanted. I want to talk to Jenny, she muttered and began walking on the spot. Kevan caught up with Jenny and told her Agneta wanted to talk to her. Jenny went back to her friend while the rest continued walking. What's wrong? You feel sick? Jenny put an arm around her friend. No, pee. Agneta hissed through her clenched teeth. I need to pee. Her clenched teeth, sorry. I need to pee now. Jenny looked around. There was no public toilet nearby, not even a park. Now! It's not that far to the venue, at most 5 minutes. I'm already peeing in my pants. Come on then. She pulled Agneta to a side street. It was not empty. A lady walking across the road and a couple had just parked their car. Between the cars after they have gone, okay? Agneta nodded with her lips tightly pressed together. Jenny tried to shield her friend as much as possible from the looks of people passing by. A couple who passed by understood what was happening and shook their heads disapprovingly. When Agneta was done, she was overwhelmingly relieved. Oh, that is so much better. They started walking again. I was about to burst. Jenny nodded and tried to figure out how drunk Agneta was. Maybe it wasn't that bad after all. Do you think I'll ever get a boyfriend? Jenny saw the sad look on her friend's face. Yes, of course, if that's what you want. But I compare everyone to Keivan, and then, no one comes close. How can you compare them to him? You don't even know him. The look Agneta gave her made her wish she'd bit her tongue. Sorry, I just mean that you only know parts of him. The rest, you just imagine. Agneta lifted her chin high. Tell me something about him that isn't good then. He has faults and shortcomings like everyone else. It's not like he's flawless. Well, tell me then, what's not good about him? Well, he snores. I find that manly. His breath in the morning before brushing his teeth is kind of horrible. So is mine. He never dares to quarrel. Well, that sounds great. Jenny sighed. Your crush on him is so big, you're not being reasonable. Come on, here it is. Jenny opened the door and walked into the tavern. She greeted the artist manager. He nodded and looked at Agneta for a moment. A friend? Jenny explained. Okay. They found the others backstage. Keivan looked quizzically at Jenny. She nodded to show him everything was okay. During the gig, Agneta sat close to the stage next to people she didn't know. She told them she knew the band and they offered her beer. After a while she laughed, a lot and loud. While Little Band gave everything on stage, she told her new friends the names of the band members and that Pom Pom could chug a beer in seconds. She was happy and whimsical, and suddenly she felt that she had to pee again. Hold my place, she said, and went to the toilet. As usual, the queue to the ladies was long. Agneta cursed herself for not having gone earlier. She should have realized that she'd have to wait a long time. Once inside the toilet, she discovered that there was no paper left. Again, she got angry with herself. She should have brought napkins from the table. Instead, she washed her hands thoroughly and, to her dismay, saw that her mascara had smeared. She washed it away as much as she could. Too bad Jenny wasn't here. It was always better to be two. Now she felt alone. When she was as clean as she could get with the cold water and a few drops of viscous soap, she returned to the table she had sat at before. Her place was taken, so she stopped, not knowing what to do. At that very moment, Jenny announced that the band would take a break. Agneta looked at Keivan, who gestured to her to accompany them backstage. Relieved, she went with them, glad that she was no longer alone. She sat down to talk to Jenny. Martin sat down next to her and started talking to her as well. He was so friendly. Had he been like that before? She hadn't noticed. Maybe that was what Jenny had meant, that Agneta's focus on Keivan made her miss everyone else. She and Martin stayed behind when the others went to get something to drink. He put his arm around her shoulders and put his hand over her breast. She felt nervous and flattered at the same time. Jenny was right. Of course, she would also find herself a boyfriend. When Martin leaned towards her, she gave him a quick kiss on the mouth. Caught off guard, he stopped, but just for a second. Then he kissed her. It was not as fantastic as Agneta had hoped it would be. It was so wet, almost slimy. Was that normal? She didn't tell him to stop, though. She didn't want him to find her childish. Come on, we're on again, Pom Pom shouted. Agneta got up quickly. Martin grabbed her hand. His voice was husky when he asked if she would still be there after the gig. She nodded. When Lil Band got on stage again, she stayed backstage, trying to calm her beating heart down. The showers don't work. We'll just have to shower at home instead. Crap. Jenny had already started undressing. I like to shower immediately after a gig. I guess we can shower at your place, especially since we have the whole house to ourselves now that the rest of your family's away. I'll remove my makeup here, though. Jenny took a toilet bag and went into the toilet. Through the door, Keivan asked her where the others were. Dunno. Guess they're sitting in the bar, sweaty and stinking. What about Agneta? Keivan sounded worried. Yeah, right. Maybe you can check if she's with them so she's not sitting alone somewhere. She's a bit sad right now. I noticed. Has something happened? No, not really. She's just unhappy that she doesn't have a boyfriend. She doubts she'll ever have one. What? That's really... How old is she? 19, like me. What's the rush? Well, Jenny thought for a moment. The weird thing is that everyone who already has a partner says there's no rush. But if you ask those who've never had one, it feels different. Just like rich people who say the money is not that important. Those who barely make enough tend to think differently. I'll go and look for her. Good. I'll come when I'm reasonably clean. Keivan walked out of the dressing room and looked around, trying to find Agneta. He didn't see her anywhere. Pom-Pom and Jonas sat at the bar, discussing something with people Kevan didn't recognize. Martin sat with a girl on a couch, but Agneta was nowhere to be seen. He was just about to go back when Martin got up to get more beer. Then Kevan saw that it was Agneta that Martin had been making out with on the couch. Her hair was messy and her blouse was partly unbuttoned. Kevan stood still, trying to gather his thoughts. This was not like her, not at all. Suddenly he was embraced from behind, and when he turned around, Jenny kissed him lightly on the mouth. Have you found her? He nodded and pointed. Martin had returned. He gave Agneta the beer he had just bought, and then sat down next to her and kissed her on the neck again, while unashamedly caressing one of her small breasts. What the hell? Kevin heard the anger in Jenny's voice. Yeah, I know, I was also surprised. Surprised? I'm angry as hell. Jenny, they can do whatever they want. No, they can't. Martin has a girlfriend. Does he have a girlfriend? Didn't you know? I don't understand what you guys talk about. Football and beer? With rapid strides, Jenny went toward Martin and Agneta. Cayman rushed after her, prepared to calm things down if needed. With her hands on her hips, Jenny stood in front of the couple that had not noticed her yet. With a loud voice, she asked, "Oh, so you've broken up with Lena now? I thought the two of you were pretty serious." That startled them, and Martin looked at Jenny like a child caught taking new cookies out of the jar. What? No, well, that's none of your business. It's definitely my business since you're snogging my best friend. She turned to Agneta. Did he tell you that he has a girlfriend? With her eyes wide open, Agneta looked from one to the other, surprised about having ended up in this awkward situation. She shook her head and felt sick. She got up and hurried to the toilet. This time there was no cue. Jenny helped Agneta by holding her hair so she would not get vomit in it. She threw up food, beer and humiliation. Jenny got her some napkins. When they finally came out of the toilet, Kevan was there. He had their jackets hanging over his arm, and he had ordered a taxi that was waiting for them. In the taxi, Jenny and Kevan comforted Agneta. They told her she was not an idiot, she had simply had a bad night. It was not her fault that Martin had been cheating on his girlfriend. Of course, she didn't have to stay away from the band the rest of her life. She didn't have anything to be ashamed of. After dropping off Agneta, Jenny and Kevan continued to Örgryte. Jenny leaned towards his shoulder and closed her tired eyes. The familiar smell of his jacket made her feel safe. She thought of the sing-along to Teddybjörn and Fredriksson that Pom-Pom had started in the tram earlier and chuckled. Kevan asked why she was laughing. Instead of answering, she just smiled and shook her head. When they were finally at home, lying in Kevan's narrow bed, she hugged him and told him he was the best boyfriend in the world. He became wide awake. While the happiness spread throughout his body, he looked at the half-sleeping Jenny. Jenny? He said tentatively. You know, there are times when I wonder if I did the wrong thing when I asked you to be my girlfriend. She opened her eyes wide. To not alarm her, he quickly continued, because I'm not sure if I'm making you as happy as I want to. I'm afraid you're not really over Peter and that you will never love me the way you loved him. He caressed her cheek. She still looked worried. But then you say things like that, and then I know. Then I know for sure I did the right thing. The happiness I feel when you say things like that more than compensates all the days when I doubt us. I love you, Jenny, so much. The anxiety in her eyes disappeared, giving way to a shining, calm love. She smiled happily at him before closing her eyes to sleep with her head on